Hello everyone, we are here with Radiadon CTO Andrea Pessino, and we are finally being able to ask a few questions about the order 1886.
We're doing this in English?
Of course.
It's the first one today. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So the order 1886 is basically the polar opposite of a lot of games you see nowadays. Nowadays you see very big games with a lot of open worlds, a lot of things to do, a lot of side quests, but they are quite unpolished. They come out a little bit.
Sometimes.
A lot of times. The order 86 on the other hand is very compact, but it's very polished. At least for what I've seen so far.
It seems to be, yes.
Was that a deliberate choice from the beginning? You wanted to keep it quite compact and quite a very contained experience without multiplayer and online interaction, stuff like that, to avoid problems and to be able to really polish it to the utmost?
No, that is not the reason. I think it's the reason why this game is the way it is because of several factors. First and foremost, the reason why the game is polished and usually not because it's a single player, story-driven game. It's polished because we wanted to make sure that we deliver the polished experience, and that's all there is to it. The reason why it doesn't have multiplayer is that this was the first introduction, the first time we were introducing this whole new universe, this new world that is hopefully complex and deep enough and interesting enough that it really requires an introduction from a point of view of a single character. It's already kind of complicated to introduce so many different elements, so many different characters. We wanted it to be focused and very targeted. And for the player to really experience the entirety of Galahad's story from his point of view. Once this part is done, once the world has been introduced and the player is more familiar with what's going on, then you can really experiment and enlarge and expand the range of play modes and introduce things like multiplayer co-op and so forth. Then it's much more logical and meaningful to do so.
Talking about modes.
Yeah.
Could we impose upon you, since the game looks so incredibly beautiful, to add a photo mode to the game?
We haven't announced anything yet, but I hope we will get to work on something like that because I want to see it too. It'll be really great. It's not always as easy as
of course
as it seems, but especially with our game because there's all kind of crazy stuff that happens behind the scenes to make it look so good. That once you freeze the camera and let the player move around, we have to be able to handle correctly. So it'd be a little bit of work, but it's something that if we manage to do, I think it'll be really spectacular and add a lot to the game.
What actually kind of boggles my mind, like a thought I have about photo mode in the Order 86, since the cutscenes are in engine.
Yes, everything is in engine.
Yes, having the ability to change the camera and to have a photo mode inside a cutscene, that would be pretty interesting, I think.
It'll be very interesting. The problem is when you have one of the reasons why everything looks so good is that our guys are really specialized. A lot of our guys, our artists, really have a deep understanding of cinematography and the techniques that are used. When you're watching a movie, and cutscenes are freaking movies, obviously, even if they're rendered in real time, there are all kind of techniques that are used to enhance the scene. For example, lights that appear and then placed in a certain spot so that it will, hit the character in just the right way, so you get the highlight, you get all the imperfections, coming out and so forth. So when you do photo mode, you freeze the camera, then you're going to see that there is a light there.
Yes.
That kind of can ruin the illusion a little bit. So again, that's where the complications come from. You don't want to break the illusion, and it's like calling cut in the middle of a movie set and then moving back and you see there is a movie being shot.
That would still be interesting though.
It will be interesting, and maybe that's what players would like to see. At the same time, it's an interesting decision to make.
Of course. a lot of gamers are very focused on the number of pixels on the screen and the number of frames
Yes.
displayed on the screen.
Yeah.
There is one thing though that personally I think is more important, at least as important, but is a lot less considered, and that's lighting.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about what's the importance of lighting in the Order 86? That LED color lighting that you see in London, was that a priority for your team?
It was a huge priority. The art director Nathan is the art director on the Order, is also the main. He is a lighting genius. He is one of the true amazing experts on the subject, and lighting is everything in creating the feel and the atmosphere of a scene. Like I was saying earlier, we use all kind of techniques that are rarely seen in games, especially in real-time rendering in games, in order to enhance that. And it's one of the main reasons why the game looks the way it does. And we iterated for years on not only on different lighting solutions, but combinational light and then post-processing effects and how it all comes together, how it all, even just the way in which we maintain the consistency of the lighting environment. When you do go from player in control to cutscene, to non-interactive or partial interactive sequences, all of that was the subject of a huge amount of research, and one of the reasons why the game feels so smooth and seamless is precisely because of that work.
There is something very interesting about the Order 86. If you see many games, even narrative games, when the developers select a main character, it's pretty much always a newbie. It's pretty much always the youngest of the group and the one that just became part of the group. So according to that logic, it would have been Lafayette.
Sure.
But you choose Galahad.
Yep.
What was the philosophy behind that scene, the choice?
It's because the game really does not treat the narrative as as a consequence of the gameplay. The two things are equal. The narrative is almost its own thing, right? This is the story of Galahad because this is the beginning of his adventures, and it's the beginning of his story. He's the character that has the most built-up conflict, and he's the character that has the most. I don't want to say conviction at the beginning, but he's the one that is the most representative of what the Order really is. He's almost not even human anymore. He's been doing this long enough, has been scarred so much, has been killing for so long that even the act of killing is almost irrelevant to him, especially at the beginning of the game. I'm sure you played the airship level.
Yes.
There is a moment in there that some gamer picked on, where in the radio communication, the command basically says, we don't have time to distinguish between the rebels and the crew, so just kill everybody. And they don't even blink; they just do it. It becomes like, obeying orders and killing is so second nature to him that you can just sense, how he's been doing it for centuries. They've almost completely lost touch with their own humanity and their empathy and everything else. And this is the voyage. So this is the voyage in which Galahad faces this fact about himself, and that is so much more interesting than just the hero journey that you always get, where the guy, I'm the new guy, they're gonna something to do, and now I become my voyage. So because of the nature of the game, and again, this requires, the narrative to be treated in a certain particular way, but that gives us the ability to tell the story that we had envisioned the way he wanted it to be told.
With Chain of Olympus, when you worked on Chain of Olympus, it looked very impressive. Yeah. Then you released Ghost of Sparta, and it looked like another world. Yes. Can we pretty much expect the same jump?
Oh yes.
On the PS4.
I can promise you that it's gonna be. We already have so many ideas, so many technologies. We have developed all kind of things already that we only barely got to start to use on the Order. We just, again, game development, you can think of it as, it's a series of choices, right? You start with a whole range of possible choices, and then you make some few basic fundamental ones, and then as you keep going, the amount of choices you have left become less and less until you finish your game, you ship it, and you're done.
Of course.
We really spent an enormous amount of time on research and development. We really wanted to create a foundation, of technology, of art, of IP, everything. We built all of this way overbuilt compared to what it actually shows in the first game. We think the first game is super entertaining, of course, and delivers quite a unique experience. But it's also really a starting point, and I am positive that given the ability to continue to evolve our technology, our storytelling techniques, and everything else, and of course our gameplay, I think the next chapter, if it does end up happening, it's going to be very, very, very good.
The game is developed in collaboration. Well, there is the Sony Santa Monica mark brand on the game. What's the relationship with Sony Santa Monica? What kind of input did they give for the game? And what's the relationship with Sony's ICE team, which normally develops all the technology for PS4?
Yeah, well, we are a bit of an odd team in that sense. Well, with Sony Santa Monica, of course, we have worked for many years. In the past, we've developed several games in their universes, of course, so we were involved also with their development team for those games, even though we kind of redid everything on our own. We've always been, we like to do our own technology and really learn about, we learn so much by examining and re-implementing the combat from God of War, for example. For the Order, Sony Santa Monica has two parts to it. There is the development team, the internal development team, and there is the publishing part of it. We deal with the publishing part of it. The publishing, the Sony Santa Monica is the publisher of the Order 1886. We are the developer. They of course provide all of the services that the publisher provides, and they do a great job at that, and coordinate all of the effort and support with everything from all of the external development and motion capture and audio and everything else. So they are our publisher, and we are the developer of the game.
Okay, one last question.
Sure.
I played a bit of the game so far, and while it's 30 FPS, it feels extremely fluid.
Yes.
Did you use some kind of special magic, special secret juice to?
It's not magic. I'll
that?
tell you exactly what it is. Well, okay, there is a little bit of magic. It's a combination of two things. One is that it stays at 30; it doesn't dip, which makes a big difference. Second, we use some very interesting type of filtering to help with smooth out. It's a form of temporal anti-aliasing that is extremely effective. Again, Matt and Dave can be, and I'm sure they will eventually be talking about some of these techniques that they've created for the Order. That is one part, and it looks fluid. When you watch the game, you can see that it's running very fluid and so forth. The fact it also feels responsive, and that is because we never introduce any latency on input. Again, those are two separate things. The simulation, the rate at which it runs, which very often in many games is not the same rate at which the game renders, and also the input latency, how quickly between the moment you press a button or move the joystick, how much latency there is between that moment and the moment in which the character responds. And in our game it's zero. It happens on the same frame. That requires, it's a little more complicated engineering-wise. It requires you to make your simulation step a little more convoluted, but it gives optimal responsiveness when you play. It runs at 30, it's solid, it's fluid, and it responds very, very well. I think anybody who plays it, I've not heard any complaints whatsoever in that department.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. This was very interesting, and thank you very much for your responses, and good luck for launch.
Thank you. I hope you will like the game.